Have you ever found yourself exhausted from the endless tug of war for someone else's attention? Maybe it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even a colleague, someone whose validation you've craved so deeply that it feels like your self-worth is tied to their acknowledgement. But what if I told you there's a powerful alternative, one that not only frees you from this struggle, but also transforms your life in ways you can't yet imagine? Let's face it, the fight for attention is draining. It makes you second-guess yourself, overanalyze every interaction, and sometimes even compromise your values. Yet here's the kicker, it's often a battle you were never meant to fight. Why? Because true connections don't require force. And here's where the problem lies. Most people mistakenly believe that winning someone's attention equals winning their respect or affection. But that's not true, is it? Instead, what if the solution was as simple as letting go? What if stopping the fight is the first step to reclaiming your energy, rediscovering your worth, and opening your life to opportunities you've been too busy chasing attention to notice? This isn't just about abandoning the struggle. It's about embracing something far more meaningful: your power, your clarity, and your happiness. This journey isn't easy. It requires courage and trust in yourself. But the rewards? They're transformative. Today we'll uncover 6 profound changes that occur when you stop fighting for their attention. Each one is a step toward liberation, self-growth, and authentic relationships. Stick around until the end, because the last one will change how you see yourself forever. Ready to dive in? Let's begin. 1. You reclaim your power. Have you ever stopped to wonder how much of your life has been spent trying to win someone else's attention? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you replayed conversations in your head, wondering if you said the right thing? How often have you tailored your actions, your appearance, or even your dreams just to fit into their idea of who you should be? Here's a tough question. Was it worth it? Did all that effort bring you the peace and fulfillment you were searching for, or did it leave you feeling more drained and empty than before? If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. The need for validation is a powerful force, but it's also a trap. Every time you adjust yourself to gain someone's attention, you give away a piece of your power. You let their reactions dictate your worth. It's exhausting, isn't it? But here's the good news. The power you've been giving away isn't lost. It's waiting for you to take it back. And the moment you stop fighting for their attention is the moment you begin to reclaim it. Let's break this down. What does it really mean to reclaim your power? It starts with a choice to stop seeking validation from someone who may never give it, or worse, someone who only gives it on their terms. When you stop fighting for their attention, you redirect all that energy back to yourself. Imagine how much lighter you'll feel when you're no longer weighed down by their approval. Think about how much more you'll accomplish when your energy is focused on your own goals, instead of wasted on trying to fit into their expectations. But reclaiming your power is more than just letting go of the fight. It's about recognizing that you never needed their attention in the first place. Their validation doesn't define your worth. It never did. This realization is liberating because it shifts your perspective. Instead of asking, "What can I do to make them notice me?" you begin asking, "What do I want to do for myself?" That's the turning point. That's where the real transformation begins. Let me ask you this. Why did you want their attention so badly in the first place? Was it because you thought their approval would make you feel more complete? If so, here's a hard truth. External validation is like a mirage. It feels satisfying for a moment, but it fades quickly, leaving you thirstier than before. The attention you fight for today will never fill the void inside, because that void can only be filled by you. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop chasing their approval, you start giving yourself permission to be whole, just as you are. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about shifting the entire dynamic of your relationships. When you stop seeking attention, you take away their power to control your emotions. Think about it. How often has their indifference ruined your day? How many times has a single text, or the lack of one, sent you spiraling? When you let go of the fight, you're no longer at the mercy of their actions. This isn't about playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. It's about stepping off the battlefield entirely. How liberating is that? Let's take this deeper. What would your life look like if you reclaimed the energy you've been wasting on the pursuit of their attention? That energy could fuel your passions, your ambitions, your relationships with people who truly care about you. More importantly, it could strengthen your relationship with yourself. Imagine waking up every day and knowing that your worth isn't tied to someone else's acknowledgement. That's not just freedom, it's power. But I won't pretend this is easy. The need for validation is deeply ingrained in all of us. It's tied to our fears of being unseen, unheard, or unloved. These fears are real, and they're hard to overcome. But here's the Stoic truth that can guide you. No one can take away what is truly yours. Your worth, your values, your peace, these belong to you and you alone. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The fight for their attention, that's an outside event. Your power is within you. So how do you reclaim this power in practice? Start by recognizing the ways you've been giving it away. Are you overextending yourself to win their favor? Are you agreeing to things you don't want, just to avoid conflict? Or are you staying silent when you know you should speak up? These patterns don't serve you, they drain you. The first step to reclaiming your power is to challenge them. Replace these behaviors with actions that honor your boundaries and reflect your values. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being self-aware. It's about recognizing that your energy is precious and should be spent on people and pursuits that uplift you, not on those who make you feel small. When you redirect your energy inward, you'll find that the world doesn't fall apart. In fact, it opens up. You'll start to notice opportunities, connections, and joys that you were too distracted to see before. Let's pause for a moment. How does this idea feel to you? Does it excite you? Does it scare you? Both feelings are natural. Stepping away from the fight for attention is a leap of faith, but it's one that leads to a stronger, freer version of yourself. If you've ever doubted your ability to take this step, let me remind you, you are capable. The power you've been seeking has been within you all along. Now, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Think about the last time you felt truly in control of your life, not swayed by someone else's opinion, but fully rooted in your own strength. Picture how that felt. Hold on to that image because that's what's waiting for you on the other side of this journey. Before we move on, let me ask for your help. If this message resonates with you, if you feel inspired to reclaim your power, take a second to like this video and comment number 1 below. Your engagement not only supports this channel, but also helps others discover this transformative message. And if you're ready to continue this journey with us, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for being here, and let's keep going. You're stronger than you know. 2. Your self-worth increases. When you stop fighting for someone else's attention, something remarkable happens. Your sense of self-worth begins to grow. At first, it might feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. After all, if you spent so much of your energy trying to win someone over, it's easy to forget what it feels like to simply value yourself without needing external validation. But as you let go of that exhausting pursuit, you start to notice a shift, a powerful, transformative one. Let's ask a simple question. What defines your worth? Is it their acknowledgement, their approval? Or is it something deeper, something that comes from within? If your worth has been tied to their attention, then what happens when that attention disappears? Does your value vanish with it? Of course not. And yet we so often live as if it does. When you stop chasing their validation, you give yourself the space to rediscover who you are. You begin to see that your worth isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on someone else noticing you, praising you, or being impressed by you. Your worth is intrinsic. It's in the way you treat others, the kindness you show, the goals you set, and the resilience you display. The beauty of this realization is that it's entirely within your control. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone but you. But let's be honest, this isn't an overnight transformation. It's a journey, and like any journey, it requires patience and commitment. At first, you might feel tempted to slip back into old habits, Maybe you'll catch yourself overthinking what you said in a conversation or wondering why they haven't responded to your message. That's okay. Change takes time. The key is to notice these moments without judgment and remind yourself, I don't need their attention to be worthy. Here's something to reflect on. Have you ever thought about how much your self-worth is tied to comparison? You see someone else getting the recognition you crave, and suddenly you feel less than. But ask yourself this: why am I measuring my value against someone else's life? Their journey isn't yours, and their success doesn't diminish your own. When you stop fighting for attention, you also stop comparing yourself to others. You free yourself from the toxic cycle of measuring your worth by someone else's standards. Instead, you start building your own foundation of self-worth. This foundation isn't shaky or dependent on fleeting moments of validation. It's solid, rooted in who you are and what you bring to the world. And here's the incredible part. When you value yourself, others notice. The confidence you radiate becomes magnetic, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because people are naturally drawn to those who are secure in themselves. Now, let's talk about the role of boundaries in this process. If your self-worth has been tied to their attention, chances are you've crossed your own boundaries more times than you can count. Maybe you've said yes when you wanted to say no. Maybe you've allowed behaviors you knew weren't okay because you didn't want to upset them. But here's the thing. Every time you compromise your boundaries, you send yourself a message that their needs are more important than yours. Is that a message you want to keep sending? When you stop fighting for their attention, you start prioritizing your boundaries. You begin to say no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does. And every time you honor your boundaries, you reinforce your sense of self-worth. You remind yourself that your feelings, your time, and your energy matter. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being self-respecting. But let's not overlook the challenges. Honoring your self-worth might mean making difficult choices. It might mean walking away from relationships that don't value you or distancing yourself from people who only take without giving. These decisions aren't easy, but they're necessary. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving your energy to people who don't appreciate it, you're depriving yourself and others of the best version of you. Here's a Stoic principle that can guide you. Your worth isn't determined by what's outside of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Similarly, your worth isn't determined by how someone treats you, it's determined by how you choose to treat yourself. When you stop letting others dictate your value, you take back control of your narrative. You become the author of your own story. Let's explore a practical exercise you can use to build your self-worth. Every day, take a moment to reflect on one thing you're proud of, something you did, said, or felt that aligns with your values. Write it down if you can. Over time, these reflections will become a powerful reminder of who you are and what you bring to the table. They'll reinforce the truth that your worth isn't up for debate. Imagine how your life will change when you truly believe in your own worth. Picture the opportunities you'll embrace because you're no longer held back by self-doubt. Envision the relationships you'll build, grounded in mutual respect and admiration. So think about the freedom you'll feel when you're no longer seeking validation from people who were never meant to define you. That's the life waiting for you when you let go of the fight for attention. Before we move forward, I want to hear from you. Does this message resonate with you? If it does, take a moment to like this video and comment number 1 below. Your engagement helps us continue to share these transformative ideas with others who need to hear them. And if you're finding value in this journey, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next steps. Thank you for being part of this community. You're making the choice to grow, and that's something to celebrate. When you stop fighting for their attention, you don't just gain their respect, you gain something far more valuable, your own. And once you have that, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Let's keep moving forward together. The best is yet to come. 3. You create space for genuine connections. When you stop fighting for someone's attention, something truly profound happens. You open up space in your life for genuine, meaningful connections. These are the relationships that don't require you to beg, chase, or compromise your authenticity. They are grounded in mutual respect, effort, and care, the kind of bonds that nourish your soul rather than deplete it. Let's take a moment to reflect. How often have you found yourself pouring energy into someone who barely notices or reciprocates your efforts? How many times have you tried to keep a relationship alive by sheer force, hoping that if you just tried harder, they'd finally see your worth? It's a painful place to be, isn't it? And yet, it's a trap so many of us fall into. The harder you fight for someone's attention, the more you neglect the people and opportunities that are already waiting for you to notice them. When you step back from the exhausting pursuit of one-sided attention, you begin to see what you've been missing. The energy you were wasting on trying to win someone over can now be redirected toward building connections that matter. Think about the relationships in your life where the effort feels mutual, where you don't have to constantly prove yourself, where being you is enough. How would those relationships flourish if you invested more of yourself into them? Here's an important question to ask yourself. What does a genuine connection look like to you? For some, it's about deep, meaningful conversations. For others, it's shared experiences or acts of kindness. Whatever it is, genuine connections are rooted in a simple but powerful truth. They are mutual. They're not about chasing or convincing. They're about showing up for each other because you want to, not because you feel obligated or desperate. By letting go of the need to fight for attention, you also free yourself from the fear of rejection. When you're constantly seeking someone's validation, rejection feels like a reflection of your worth. But the reality is, rejection is often more about the other person than it is about you. When you stop chasing, you start to understand that not every connection is meant to last, and that's okay. The people who are meant to be in your life will stay, not because you fought for them, but because they choose to be there. Let's talk about the power of vulnerability in creating genuine connections. One of the reasons people fight for attention is because they're afraid to be vulnerable. They think, if I try too hard to impress them, they won't see my flaws. But the truth is, vulnerability is what makes relationships meaningful. It's what allows others to see the real you and connect with you on a deeper level. When you stop trying to force a connection, you give yourself permission to be vulnerable, to show up as your authentic self and trust that the right people will appreciate you for who you are. Think about a time when you felt truly seen by someone, not because you tried to impress them, but because you allowed them to see the real you. How did that feel? That's the power of genuine connection, and it's something you can only experience when you stop fighting for superficial attention. Now, let's explore how this shift impacts the kinds of people you attract into your life. When you're desperate for attention, you often attract people who thrive on that dynamic, people who enjoy being chased but have little interest in giving back. But when you let go of that neediness, you begin to attract people who value mutual effort. These are the people who see your worth without you having to spell it out, who show up for you because they want to, not because they feel pressured. This doesn't just apply to romantic relationships, it's true for friendships, family, and even professional connections. By focusing on building genuine bonds, you create a network of people who uplift and support you. These are the people who celebrate your successes, stand by you in difficult times, and encourage you to grow. They're not interested in what you can do for them, they care about who you are. But creating space for genuine connections also requires you to let go of what no longer serves you. This might mean distancing yourself from people who take more than they give, who make you feel small, or who only show up when it's convenient for them. Letting go isn't easy, especially if you've invested a lot of time and energy into these relationships. But remember, the space you free up by letting go of what doesn't serve you can be filled with something better. This process also invites you to reconnect with yourself. Genuine connections aren't just about how you relate to others, they're about how you relate to yourself. When you stop chasing external validation, you start to tune into what you truly want and need. You begin to understand your values, your boundaries, and your desires. This self-awareness is the foundation of every meaningful relationship in your life. After all, how can you expect others to connect with you if you're not connected with yourself? Let's consider the ripple effect of this transformation. When you surround yourself with genuine connections, it changes the way you move through the world. You feel supported, understood, and valued, which boosts your confidence and resilience. This, in turn, helps you build even stronger connections. It's a cycle of positivity and growth that starts with one simple decision: to stop fighting for attention and start prioritizing authenticity. Imagine the relationships you'll build when you're no longer wasting energy on people who don't value you. Picture the depth of connection you'll experience when you're fully present with those who do. Envision the joy of being surrounded by people who see you, support you, and celebrate you, not because you fought for their attention, but because they genuinely care. When you stop fighting for attention, you create space for something far more fulfilling. You make room for the connections that truly matter, the ones that remind you of your worth, your values, and your humanity. And in doing so, you not only transform your relationships, you transform your life. 4. Their influence over you fades. When you stop fighting for someone's attention, something extraordinary happens. You begin to regain control over your emotional landscape. Their influence over you starts to fade. The power they once held to dictate your mood, decisions, and even self-perception diminishes. This isn't just a step forward, it's a liberation. Let's take a moment to reflect on the grip they might have had on you. How often have you found yourself waiting for their response, replaying their words, or analyzing their actions as if your happiness depended on it? Be honest. How much mental and emotional energy have you given away to someone who may not even realize or care that they hold such power over you? If you felt trapped in this dynamic, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're human. The need for connection and validation is universal. But here's the truth. You don't need their attention to feel whole. And the moment you stop seeking it, you set yourself free. Let's explore what this freedom looks like. When you stop chasing their attention, you reclaim your emotional autonomy. No longer are you at the mercy of their whims. Their silence doesn't send you into a spiral of self-doubt. Their approval, or lack thereof, no longer determines your sense of self-worth. Instead, you become the anchor of your own life. This shift isn't just empowering, it's life-changing. Now, let's address a crucial question. Why do they hold so much influence over you in the first place? Is it because you've given them the authority to define your value? Or is it because their opinion has become entangled with your sense of identity? Whatever the reason, the good news is that their influence isn't permanent. It's a habit, and like any habit, it can be broken. The first step is recognizing that their power over you is something you've allowed, not something inherent or inescapable. Here's an example to consider. Imagine you're texting someone whose attention you crave. You send a message, and then the waiting begins. 5 minutes pass, then 10, then an hour. Suddenly, your thoughts are consumed by their silence. Did I say something wrong? Are they ignoring me? Do they not care about me anymore? This spiral is familiar to many of us, but it's also a choice, one you don't have to keep making. When you stop fighting for their attention, you take back the mental space that their silence used to occupy. You remind yourself that their delay says more about them than it does about you. This isn't just about romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, family, and even professional dynamics. Consider a colleague whose opinion you've been overly invested in, or a friend whose approval you've sought at the expense of your own needs. When you let go of the need for their validation, you create room for your own voice. You stop making decisions based on what you think they want and start making decisions that align with your values. But let's be real, this isn't easy. The pull for their attention can feel overwhelming, especially if you've built a pattern of seeking their approval. It takes time and practice to rewire your thoughts. The key is to catch yourself in the moment. The next time you find yourself overly concerned about their opinion or reaction, pause and ask yourself, why am I giving them so much power? What would happen if I let this go? Often you'll realize that the worst-case scenario you've imagined isn't as catastrophic as it feels. Here's a Stoic principle that can guide you through this process. Focus on what you can control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Their actions, words, and reactions, those are outside events. Your response to them, that's within your control. The more you shift your focus inward, the less their behavior will affect you. Think about how much lighter your life will feel when their influence fades. No longer will you be stuck in the exhausting cycle of overthinking and overanalyzing. You'll have more energy to focus on the things that truly matter, your goals, your passions, and the people who genuinely care about you. You'll start to notice how much brighter your world becomes when it's not clouded by the weight of their opinions. But this isn't just about letting go, it's about rebuilding. As their influence fades, you'll begin to fill the space they once occupied with things that uplift and inspire you. Maybe it's a hobby you've been neglecting, a goal you've been putting off, or a relationship that deserves more of your attention. By shifting your focus away from them, you create space for growth, joy, and fulfillment. Now let's consider the ripple effect of this change. When you stop being affected by their behavior, you become more confident, more resilient, and more at peace. This newfound stability doesn't just benefit you, it impacts everyone around you. You become a source of strength and inspiration for others, showing them what it looks like to live free from the need for external validation. But what about them, the person whose attention you've been fighting for? What happens when their influence fades? Ironically, this shift often changes the dynamic. When you stop seeking their validation, they may start to notice you in a new light. They might even begin to respect the boundaries and independence you've established. But here's the important part. Their reaction doesn't matter. This journey isn't about them, it's about you. Let's pause for a moment. Think about the times when you felt weighed down by their influence. What would your life look like without that burden? Picture the freedom of waking up each day and knowing that their opinion doesn't control your happiness. Imagine the confidence you'll feel when you realize that their validation isn't necessary for your growth or success. That's the life waiting for you when you let go of their influence. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. The fact that you're here reading this means you're ready for change. You're ready to take back your power, to focus on what truly matters, and to live a life that isn't dictated by someone else's approval. Before we move forward, let me ask for your help. If you've found value in this message, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're ready to continue this journey, don't forget to subscribe so you can join us for the next steps. Thank you for being part of this community. You're not just growing, you're inspiring others to grow as well. Let's keep going. There's so much more to discover. The best is yet to come. 5. You gain clarity about their role in your life. When you stop fighting for someone's attention, you begin to see them and the relationship for what it truly is. The fog of desperation clears, and you gain a new level of clarity about their role in your life. It's a shift that can be both liberating and sobering, because it forces you to confront truths you may have been avoiding. Let's start with an honest question. Who are they to you really? Are they the person you've idealized, someone you believe holds the key to your happiness? Or are they just another human being, flawed and complex, who may not be capable of giving you what you need? Often the fight for attention distorts your perspective. You focus so much on winning their approval that you overlook the reality of the relationship. But when you let go of the struggle, you can finally see things as they are. This clarity doesn't mean blaming or resenting them. It means understanding. It's about recognizing their limitations without judgment. Maybe they don't value you the way you hoped they would. Maybe they're not capable of the kind of connection you crave. Or maybe they do care, but not in the way you've been expecting. Whatever the case, clarity allows you to see them for who they are, not who you wish they could be. But gaining clarity isn't just about them, it's also about you. When you stop fighting for their attention, you create space to reflect on your own patterns, expectations, and desires. Why were you so invested in their approval? Was it because you genuinely valued the connection? Or was it because you were seeking something deeper, something they could never truly provide? These are difficult questions, but they're essential to understanding yourself and your needs. One of the most powerful aspects of this clarity is that it helps you set boundaries. Once you see the relationship for what it is, you can decide what role, if any, this person should play in your life. If they've been a source of pain or imbalance, you might choose to step back or even walk away entirely. If the relationship holds potential but has been clouded by unmet expectations, you can approach it with a new sense of balance and realism. Let's explore an example. Imagine you've been chasing the attention of a friend who always seems distant. You've gone out of your way to include them, support them, and make them feel valued, yet they rarely reciprocate. In the fog of seeking their validation, you might have justified their behavior, telling yourself they're just busy or reserved. But when you let go of the need for their attention, you can see the situation more clearly. Maybe they're not distant because they're busy, they're distant because the relationship isn't a priority for them. This realization might hurt, but it also frees you to invest your energy elsewhere. Clarity also brings freedom from false hope. When you're fighting for attention, you often cling to the possibility that things will change, that if you just try harder, they'll finally notice you, appreciate you, or love you the way you want them to. But hope without foundation is a heavy burden to carry. When you stop fighting, you let go of that burden. You stop waiting for them to change and start focusing on what you can change: your perspective, your choices, and your life. At the same time, clarity helps you appreciate the relationships that do matter. When you're no longer fixated on someone who isn't showing up for you, you can turn your attention to the people who are. These are the friends, family members, and partners who value you without you having to fight for it. By redirecting your focus, you deepen these connections and create a support system that nourishes you. Let's take this a step further. Gaining clarity about their role in your life isn't just about recognizing their shortcomings, it's also about recognizing their humanity. They're not a villain, and you're not a victim. They're simply a person navigating their own journey with their own fears, limitations, and struggles. This perspective doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it helps you approach the situation with compassion, both for them and for yourself. One of the most transformative aspects of clarity is that it allows you to release resentment. When you see the relationship for what it is, you can stop blaming them for not meeting your expectations. Instead, you can accept that they've played their role, however imperfectly, and let go of the need to hold on to anger or disappointment. This doesn't mean you have to stay connected to them. It means you're freeing yourself from the emotional weight of unmet expectations. Clarity also sets the stage for gratitude. As painful as it can be to confront the truth about a relationship, it's also an opportunity for growth. Each interaction, even the difficult ones, teaches you something about yourself, your needs, your boundaries, and your capacity for resilience. When you stop fighting for attention, you can start to appreciate these lessons and use them to build stronger, healthier relationships in the future. Finally, gaining clarity about their role in your life allows you to focus on your own role. Who do you want to be in your relationships? What values do you want to bring to the connections you cultivate? When you stop chasing someone else's validation, you can start living in alignment with your own values. You can become the kind of person who attracts the right people, not because you're fighting for their attention, but because your authenticity draws them to you. Imagine the freedom of seeing your relationships clearly, without the haze of unmet expectations or unfulfilled hopes. Picture the peace of knowing exactly where you stand and who belongs in your life. Envision the strength you'll feel when you let go of what doesn't serve you and embrace what does. That's the gift of clarity, and it's waiting for you when you stop fighting for their attention. This clarity is more than just a moment of realization. It's a turning point. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where you prioritize your growth, your happiness, and your connections with people who truly matter. It's a chapter where you no longer settle for less than you deserve, because you finally see the value in yourself and the relationships that reflect that value. Let this clarity be your guide. Trust that by letting go of the fight, you're making room for something better. And remember, the relationships that are meant to last don't require struggle. They thrive on mutual respect, effort, and understanding. That's the kind of connection worth holding on to. 6. You focus on your growth and happiness. When you stop fighting for someone else's attention, you experience one of the most transformative shifts of all. You redirect all that energy toward your own growth and happiness. What once felt like an endless cycle of chasing and proving suddenly becomes an open road to self-discovery, fulfillment, and joy. And the best part, this isn't just about becoming happier, it's about becoming the best version of yourself. Let's start with this question. How much energy have you spent trying to win their attention? Be honest with yourself. How many hours have you replayed conversations worried about their silence, or strategized your next move to make them notice you? Now imagine what could happen if you took all that energy and invested it in yourself. The possibilities are endless. When you let go of the fight, you create space to focus on what truly matters: your goals, passions, and well-being. Think about the dreams you've put on hold because you were too distracted by the pursuit of their validation. Maybe it's a project you've always wanted to start, a skill you've wanted to learn, or a healthier lifestyle you've been meaning to embrace. Now is the time to revisit those aspirations. The energy you once spent on them can now be used to build the life you've always wanted. This shift isn't just about action, it's about mindset. When you stop seeking external validation, you begin to trust your own instincts and decisions. You stop asking, "What will they think?" and start asking, "What do I want?" This question is powerful because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your own life. You're no longer living for someone else's approval. You're living for yourself. Let's talk about happiness. True happiness doesn't come from someone else's attention. It comes from living in alignment with your values and desires. It's about waking up each day and knowing that you're on a path that feels right for you, not one dictated by someone else's expectations. When you stop chasing their attention, you start building a life that reflects who you are, not who you think you need to be to win their favor. But let's be real, this isn't always an easy journey. When you first redirect your focus inward, you might feel a sense of emptiness. After all, you've spent so much time and energy trying to win their attention. What do you do with that space now? This is where self-discovery comes in. Use this time to explore who you are and what makes you happy. Try new things. Take risks. Learn to enjoy your own company. The more you invest in yourself, the more you'll realize that your happiness was never dependent on them. It was always within you. Now, let's explore how this shift impacts your relationships. When you focus on your growth and happiness, you become a magnet for the right kind of people. These are the individuals who value you for who you are, not what you can do for them. They're drawn to your confidence, your authenticity, and your passion for life. And here's the beautiful irony. The less you try to win attention, the more genuine attention you attract. This isn't just about attracting new relationships, it's also about strengthening the ones you already have. When you're no longer preoccupied with chasing validation, you can show up more fully for the people who matter. You have the emotional bandwidth to nurture connections that are mutual and meaningful. And because you're focused on your own growth, you inspire others to do the same. Let's dive deeper into what growth looks like. Growth isn't just about achieving external goals. It's about becoming the kind of person you're proud to be. It's about cultivating resilience, gratitude, and self-awareness. It's about learning from your mistakes and using them as stepping stones to become stronger and wiser. And most importantly, it's about embracing the journey, not just the destination. Think about the person you want to be a year from now. What does their life look like? What habits, relationships, and accomplishments define them? Now ask yourself, what steps can I take today to move closer to that vision? When you stop chasing someone else's attention, you give yourself the freedom to answer these questions and take action. Here's another powerful shift. When you focus on your growth, you redefine success. Success is no longer about winning someone's approval. It's about living a life that feels meaningful to you. This might mean pursuing a career you're passionate about, building deeper connections with loved ones, or simply finding joy in the small moments of everyday life. Whatever it is, success becomes a reflection of your values, not someone else's expectations. Now let's address happiness. Many people think happiness is something you find or achieve, but the truth is, happiness is something you create. It's a choice you make every day, even in the face of challenges. When you stop tying your happiness to someone else's attention, you reclaim the power to create it for yourself. This doesn't mean you'll never feel pain or disappointment. It means you'll have the tools to navigate those emotions and still find joy. Imagine waking up each morning and feeling excited about the day ahead. Imagine looking in the mirror and feeling proud of the person you see. Imagine living a life that feels authentic, fulfilling, and uniquely yours. That's what's possible when you let go of the fight for their attention and focus on your growth and happiness. Let's not forget the ripple effect of this transformation. When you prioritize your well-being, you inspire others to do the same. Your growth becomes a source of encouragement for the people around you, showing them what's possible when you stop seeking validation and start living authentically. This isn't just about changing your life, it's about creating a positive impact on the world. Before we close this chapter, take a moment to reflect. What would your life look like if you redirected all the energy you've spent fighting for attention toward your own growth and happiness? What could you achieve? Who could you become? These questions aren't just hypothetical, they're the start of a journey that can change everything. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to celebrate this shift. You're no longer fighting for someone else's approval, you're fighting for yourself. And that's a fight worth winning. If you found value in this journey, I invite you to share it with others. Like this video, comment number 1 below, and hit that subscribe button to continue exploring these transformative ideas. Your engagement helps build a community of people committed to growth, happiness, and authenticity. Thank you for being here. You're not just watching a video, you're taking the first steps toward a better, brighter future. When you stop fighting for their attention, you begin a journey that's not just about letting go. It's about embracing something far more powerful, yourself. The changes we've explored, reclaiming your power, increasing your self-worth, creating space for genuine connections, diminishing their influence, gaining clarity and focusing on your growth and happiness, aren't isolated shifts. Together they form a transformation, one that redefines how you live, love, and see the world. But let's pause for a moment. As we wrap up, ask yourself, what has resonated with me most? Was it the idea of reclaiming your power and realizing you don't need their validation? Was it the clarity that comes when you see a relationship for what it truly is? Or was it the prospect of focusing entirely on your growth and happiness? Whatever it is, hold on to that insight. It's the key to unlocking the next chapter of your life. Now, let's talk about where you go from here. This journey isn't a one-time decision, it's a practice. There will be days when you feel tempted to slip back into old habits, to chase after the attention you've worked so hard to let go of. That's normal. What matters is how you respond. When those moments come, remind yourself of this truth. You are worthy, you are enough, and you don't need anyone else's approval to live a fulfilling life. This practice isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Celebrate the small wins. Maybe today you caught yourself before overthinking someone's silence. Maybe tomorrow you'll set a boundary you've been afraid to enforce. These steps might seem small, but they're part of something much bigger. The process of becoming the person you're meant to be. Let's also acknowledge the courage it takes to embark on this path. Letting go of the fight for attention requires you to confront fears, break patterns, and step into the unknown. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Each step you take brings you closer to a life where your worth isn't defined by anyone else but you. A life where your relationships are rooted in mutual respect, your choices align with your values, and your happiness is something you create every day. This journey is deeply personal, but it's also universal. Everyone at some point has struggled with the need for validation. By choosing to let go of that struggle, you're not just transforming your own life, you're becoming part of a movement. You're showing others what's possible when you stop seeking external approval and start living authentically. Now, let's return to where we began. This isn't just about giving up the fight. It's about gaining something much greater. Freedom. Freedom to focus on what matters, to connect deeply, to grow authentically, and to find happiness within yourself. That freedom is your birthright, and by choosing this path, you're reclaiming it. Before we part ways, I want to invite you to take action. If this message has resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned and how you'll apply it to your life. And if you found value in this journey, please consider sharing it with others. Like this video, comment number 1 below, and hit subscribe to join our growing community of people committed to self-discovery and growth. Thank you for being here and for taking the time to invest in yourself. Your willingness to reflect, grow, and embrace change is a testament to your strength. As you move forward, remember, the most important attention you'll ever fight for is your own. Keep choosing yourself and watch how your world transforms. Until next time, take care and remember you've got this.